In the realm of Greek mythology, where extraordinary heroes confront even more extraordinary beasts, the Lernaean Hydra, or Hydra of Lerna, stands out as one of the most formidable adversaries. More commonly referred to simply as the Hydra, this serpentine water monster is not just another creature of myth, but a symbol of resilience, regeneration, and challenges that seem insurmountable. The Hydra is one of the most famous and fearsome creatures in Greek mythology, known for its terrifying appearance and deadly abilities. As a multi-headed serpent-like monster, the Hydra's origins are deeply intertwined with the mythological landscapes of ancient Greece, and its death at the hands of the hero Heracles, Hercules in Roman mythology, is one of the most iconic episodes of Greek legend. This creature's story reflects themes of struggle, resilience, and the consequences of pride and defiance against the gods. The Hydra, also called the Lernaean Hydra, because it lived near Lerna in Greece, was part of a brood of ancient mythical monsters. Its parents were the creatures Typhus and Echidna, and its siblings included other multi-headed beasts, such as Cerberus and the Chimera. The Hydra itself was a serpent with numerous heads. The exact number varied in ancient sources. Its blood and even its breath were poisonous. The Lernaean Hydra, or Hydra of Lerna, more often known simply as the Hydra, is a serpentine lake monster in Greek mythology and Roman mythology. Its lair was the Lake of Lerna in the Argolid, which was also the site of the myth of the Danaids. Lerna was reputed to be an entrance to the underworld, and archaeology has established it as a sacred site older than Mycenaean Argos. In the canonical Hydra myth, the monster is killed by Heracles, Hercules, as the second of his 12 labors. The Hydra was literally multiple times more ferocious than its closest relative, the snake. Not only was this swamp-dwelling monster larger than any known snake, it had somewhere between 6 and 100 heads. Each of the Hydra's heads was supported by a long neck, so the heads could coil around each other or fan out and attack challengers from every angle. Eventually, all those necks welded together into a fat tail, which trailed along the ground behind the monster. Some show the tail forking at the end into 2 or more small tails. The Hydra had a nasty personality to match its horrid appearance. From birth, the goddess Hera trained the monster to attack and destroy anything that fell beneath its gaze. It ravaged innocent villages around its home, Lake Lerna, devouring hundreds of victims. When the Hydra wasn't filling its stomach with human flesh, it slumbered in a deep swamp cave, which was rumored to be one of the entrances to the underworld. Only hunger or rage could draw the beast out of its lair. Otherwise, it was mindless and lazy. It's no mistake that Hera chose the Hydra as one of Heracles' 11 tasks. This monster had powers that could easily send a hero to the underworld. First, the Hydra's blood was full of super toxic poison. Some men died simply from approaching the beast's lair and smelling its poisonous blood and breath. Even after the Hydra was slaughtered, its blood was used as a weapon that brought down many strong fighters. Second, the Hydra was immortal and had regenerative abilities. The monster had one immortal head, which was protected by the other deadly heads that grew around it. If any of the mortal heads were cut off, 2 or more heads would sprout from the monster's body to replace the loss. The beast could only be killed by cutting off the immortal head. The oldest extant Hydra narrative appears in Hesiod's Theogony, while the oldest images of the monster are found on a pair of bronze fibulae dating to 700 BC. In both these sources, the main motifs of the Hydra myth are already present: a multi-headed serpent that is slain by Heracles and Aeolus. While these fibulae portray a six-headed Hydra, its number of heads was first fixed in writing by Alcaeus, 600 BC, who gave it 9 heads. Simonides, writing a century later, increased the number to 50, while Euripides, Virgil, and others did not give an exact figure. Heraclitus the paradoxographer rationalized the myth by suggesting that the Hydra would have been a single-headed snake accompanied by its offspring. Like the initial number of heads, the monster's capacity to regenerate lost heads varies with time and author. The first mention of this ability of the Hydra occurs with Euripides, where the monster grew back a pair of heads for each one severed by Heracles. In the Euthydemus of Plato, Socrates likens Euthydemus and his brother Dionysodorus to a Hydra of a sophistical nature who grows 2 arguments for every one refuted. Palaphadus, Ovid, and Diodorus Siculus concur with Euripides, while Servius has the Hydra grow back 3 heads each time. The Suda does not give a number. Depictions of the monster dating to 500 BC show it with a double tail as well as multiple heads, suggesting the same regenerative ability at work, but no literary accounts have this feature. The Hydra had many parallels in ancient Near Eastern religions. In particular, Sumerian, Babylonian, and Assyrian mythology celebrated the deeds of the war and hunting god Ninurta, whom the Angam credited with slaying monsters on an expedition to the mountains, including a 7-headed serpent, possibly identical with the Mushmahu, and Bashmu, whose constellation, despite having a single head, was later associated by the Greeks with the Hydra. The constellation is also sometimes associated in Babylonian contexts with Marduk's dragon, the Mushashu. Eurystheus, the king of the Tyrans, sent Heracles, or Hercules, to slay the Hydra, which Hera had raised just to slay Heracles. Upon reaching the swamp near Lake Lerna, where the Hydra dwelt, Heracles covered his mouth and nose with a cloth to protect himself from the poisonous fumes. He shot flaming arrows into the Hydra's lair, the spring of Amymone, a deep cave from which it emerged only to terrorize neighboring villages. He then confronted the Hydra, wielding either a harvesting sickle, according to some early vase paintings, a sword, or his famed club. Heracles then attempted to cut off the Hydra's heads, but each time that he did so, 1 or 2 more heads, depending on the source, would grow back in its place. The Hydra was invulnerable as long as it retained at least 1 head. The struggle is described by the mythographer Apollodorus. Realizing that he could not defeat the Hydra in this way, Heracles called on his nephew Aeolus for help. His nephew then came upon the idea, possibly inspired by Athena, of using a firebrand to scorch the neck stumps after each decapitation. Heracles cut off each head and Aeolus cauterized the open stumps. Seeing that Heracles was winning the struggle, Hera sent a giant crab to distract him. He crushed it under his mighty foot. The Hydra's 1 immortal head was cut off with a golden sword given to Heracles by Athena. Heracles placed the head, still alive and writhing, under a great rock on the sacred way between Lerna and Elaeus, and dipped his arrows in the Hydra's poisonous blood. Thus, his second task was complete. The alternate version of this myth is that after cutting off one head, he then dipped his sword in its neck and used its venom to burn each head so it could not grow back. Hera, upset that Heracles had slain the beast she raised to kill him, placed it in the dark blue vault of the sky as the constellation Hydra. She then turned the crab into the constellation Cancer. Heracles would later use arrows dipped in the Hydra's poisonous blood to kill other foes during his remaining labors, such as Stymphalian birds and the giant Geryon. He later used one to kill the centaur Nessus, and Nessus' tainted blood was applied to the tunic of Nessus, by which the centaur had his posthumous revenge. Both Strabo and Pausanias report that the stench of the river Anagras in Elis, making all the fish of the river inedible, was reputed to be due to the Hydra's poison, washed from the arrows Heracles used on the centaur. When Eurystheus, the agent of Hera who was assigning the 12 labors to Heracles, found out that Aeolus had handed Heracles the firebrand, he declared that the labor had not been completed alone and as a result did not count toward the 10 labors set for him. The mythic element is an equivocating attempt to resolve the submerged conflict between an ancient 10 labors and a more recent 12. After Heracles killed the Hydra, he dipped some of his arrows in the monster's toxic blood. He used these arrows to kill new enemies, who didn't stand a chance against the poison. A centaur named Nessus was one of the enemies who Heracles killed with his poisonous arrows. As he lay dying, Nessus beckoned to Heracles' wife and told her that his blood, spilled by her husband, could be used as a love charm that would make her husband faithful to her for life. In fact, Nessus' blood was tainted with Hydra poison and had become a deadly weapon itself. Not knowing this, Heracles' wife dipped his clothes in the blood and gave them to him to wear. As soon as the cloth touched Heracles' skin, the Hydra's poison began to burn his flesh, and it burned until the hero was dead. Thus, in the end, the Hydra claimed Heracles' life in return for its own. The Hydra, with its ever-regenerating heads, has been interpreted by scholars and enthusiasts in various ways. Many see it as a symbol of challenges that multiply or persist when confronted directly. Some believe it represents the idea of endurance and resilience, as the Hydra continually rejuvenates despite facing adversity. In modern culture, the Hydra has made its way into literature, film, and other media as a representation of multifaceted challenges or entities that grow stronger when attacked. Phrases like Hydra-headed problem have come to symbolize issues that sprout new challenges as soon as one aspect is addressed. The Hydra, with its roots deep in Greek mythology, remains a symbol of the timeless struggle between man and seemingly insurmountable challenges. Its story, particularly the battle with Heracles, illustrates the virtues of persistence, strategy, and collaboration in the face of daunting adversity. Whether as a mythological beast or a metaphor for life's complex challenges, the Hydra's legacy is enduring and influential. The Hydra has slithered through literature, influencing countless works over the millennia. In ancient texts, the Hydra's story is a cautionary tale of the importance of wit over brute strength. In modern literature, writers have drawn upon the Hydra metaphor to explore complex themes such as the nature of evil, the concept of regeneration and resilience, and the idea that some challenges become more complicated when confronted with force alone. In today's cultural landscape, the Hydra myth has been reimagined and repurposed in various forms, from films and television shows to comic books and video games. These modern interpretations often use the Hydra as a metaphor for societal and personal challenges, such as the fight against oppression, the struggle with personal demons, or the resilience required to face life's adversities. Interestingly, the Hydra myth has also made its way into science. The Hydra, a small freshwater organism known for its remarkable regenerative abilities, was named after the mythical creature, reflecting the myth's impact on the scientific imagination.